Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be creating a couple of basic box cards using brand new dies from the Simon Says Stamp and Back Again release. So there is the basic box die, plus then there is the basic box cards, clouds and hearts, which are amazing add-ons that really add to these pop-up boxes. Best yet, these cards fold flat and fit in a standard A2 size envelope. So these are the three dies that come with the basic box card. You get the box component itself, which you're going to need to die cut two of these from whatever paper you are going to want to use that is going to create the box card. I'm actually going to cut mine from smooth white cardstock, and I'm going to do this 4 times so I can create 2 cards today. Then you're going to want to take one of the rectangles. One is a little bigger than the other, and that's going to create the window in the front of your box card. So if you want a little thinner frame, you can use the bigger die. If you want a little more substantial frame, you can use the small or the smaller rectangle. I used the larger one on my first card and the smaller rectangle on the second. Next, after I have my 4 panels, I'm actually going to create my own pattern paper background with the brand new Simon Says Stamp Tossed Hearts background cling stamp. This is a gorgeous background stamp that really gives you I think that pattern paper look and vibe. So this is really fun to do. I'm going to take some of my favorite Pawsitively saturated inks, and I've positioned my background so that the tabbed in is over there on the left, and it is not going to be stamped, which is totally fine. In fact, I prefer that. And I am inking up my first panel with Seafoam and Surf Pawsitively saturated inks for kind of a more ombre effect in that background. And I'm going to need to do the same thing on both of my panels. So I'm just simply taking my hand and making sure that I have a great impression. Look how pretty that is. It is the perfect little way to add a little something to a plain cardstock. So let's go ahead and grab our second base, or our second side, second or third and fourth side, whatever you want to call it, for our basic box card. And let's ink it up just like we did before, again with Seafoam and Surf Pawsitively saturated inks, and ink up that panel. Just a little FYI too, if you didn't catch my previous video where I used and Back Again release products, Simon Says Stamp has released the re-inkers for the Pawsitively saturated inks. I am so excited about this. So if you have been needing re-inkers, now's the time to pick those up. I'm going to make sure and clean my background stamp really well. Again, this is called Tossed Hearts. And then we're going to take some bubble gum Pawsitively saturated ink and stamp our remaining 2 panels. For this one, I opted not to do the ombre effect, but you could definitely do that if you wanted to. So I wanted to show ombre, and then I'm just going to show kind of a basic stamping. And again, beautiful results. Anywhere you see where it might look a little blotchy, as that ink dries and is absorbed into the cardstock, it smooths out and even fades a little bit. So it definitely, you end up with fantastic results. And we will do the second side for this card as well. So now that I have my panels, which I did stamp them as they were a full panel before I die cut anything out of them, and that is an important step because I am going to actually use the stamped die cut rectangle that I die cut from one of the sides on the inside of my box, so there isn't going to be any waste. Now from the clouds add-on for the basic box card, I die cut all 3 clouds from smooth white cardstock, and that's what we're going to use for our first card, as well as the larger of the 2 rectangles that come with the basic box card. Excuse me, I'm going to line this up. So just eyeballing it, I'm going to tape it down with a little repositionable tape and run it through my die cutting machine. Let's go ahead and set the pink one aside for a minute while we work on our first card. So I want to pull this out, and again, I want to save that because I do want to use that inside the card design so that when you're looking through the pop-up box, you actually see some of these little blue hearts off in the background, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. I'm going to score the card now. It actually has score lines. When you die cut it, it will add those score lines, but I'm going to take a bone folder and I am going to make sure that I have good creases. Anytime I'm working with a card design that is interactive, I think it's super important to make sure that you have really good creases because your interactive element works so much better. So you'll notice I'm just kind of gently folding it and then taking the bone folder and pressing pretty hard to get that really nice crease. Then I'm going to take some double-sided adhesive. I like using a nice strong adhesive, and we're going to place this on those long skinny tabs. We're going to do that on both of the tabs, and then we're going to remove the backing paper from just one of the tabs. What we want to do is create a long strip, and then we're going to place our inserts inside before we fold it up. So here I removed the backing paper from one strip. I'm going to just press this down into one long strip, and here you can kind of see what it'll look like. So now I'm going to take the inserts, and you can add as many of these as you want. You can mix and match the clouds with the hearts from the other set. You'll see me do that on the second box card. You could add more of these cloud borders inside if you wanted to. I added my clouds down at the bottom. You could add them up at the top. There are so many things you can do. You can literally add as many of these inserts inside the box as you want. Now, I did take that leftover rectangle and I placed it in the back of my card. And then I am going to make sure all of the score lines on my cloud inserts are nice and creased, and we're going to put double-sided adhesive on all of these tabs. Now, there is a trick to assembling these. If you've ever seen me do any other kind of pop-up box card or anything like that, it's going to be the same kind of technique. We want to adhere all of one side, and then we want to lay out kind of flat all of the different layers, and then we'll fold the other side into those to pick it up. And I know that sounds kind of confusing, but hopefully when you see it, it makes a little more sense. You want to make sure and add your adhesive right now. So I'm going to make sure and add my really nice strong adhesive. Whoops, not where on there, but all over. On the little tab sides, pardon me. And then this is like more of a frame, a cloudy frame, and then the other two are like partial clouds. So much fun. And then we're going to simply take this and remove one side, and then we're going to figure out where we want this to go. And I think I decided I want to start with one of these instead. So let's go ahead and do that. This one's going to be in the center, and I'm lining it up with the bottom of my box card, or the bottom of that. And then we're going to line this one up with the top and the bottom. I'm just eyeballing it, and I'm trying to space them fairly evenly. And then the final one, will remove one side of the backing paper, and we're going to place this one closest to the window. So you can see this has the biggest opening. The next cloud is a little higher up, and then finally the frame. So I'm going to just fold it shut so you can kind of get an idea of how cute that is. Isn't that fun? This gives us what I kind of like to call layers to add our elements. So now I'm going to fold everything down and flat, just like so, and remove the backing paper from all of our tabs. Now, really, you can do them one at a time, but that's not my favorite because I find it kind of hard to try to do the next one and the next one. So while you might see me do that here, just know my preferred way of doing this is to lay them all down flat, remove the backing paper from all of the layers while kind of using my other hand to hold them down in place, and then folding this over and picking them up. And then I like to use my bone folder to make sure they're nice and secure. And then we can simply finish the box by removing that last piece of backing paper and folding our front right over the top of that. Just like so. Perfect. And there is our box card. Now comes the fun part, you guys, filling this box card with all kinds of cute imagery. You can do anything with this. You can add any kind of cute images. You might already have some on hand. I am going to be using the brand new Simon Says Stamp Love Day stamp set. This has some cute critters and lots of fun sentiments. I'm going to use the cat and the dog from this set. I'm going to use both of them on this card, and then for my second card, I'm just going to use the cat. So what we're going to do is I'm just laying everything out, and I'm kind of seeing what I want to use for my card. This gives me an idea, at least. I may have to add to it, which you'll see me do. And then I'm going to stamp the cat, the dog, and then the 3 hearts from this set on a scrap of smooth white cardstock using the Hero Arts Intensified Black ink, and we're going to color them in with Copic markers. So let's get a good stamped impression first. This is just a scrap of the Neenah 110-pound weight smooth white cardstock left over from die cutting my box cards. I like to make sure all of those little bits and pieces are used and nothing goes to waste. Then I'm going to take some Copic markers and color these in. So starting with our hearts, I'm going to use our 35, 32, and 30. We're going to start with the large heart that the cat is holding. Let's zoom in a little bit closer for the coloring. And I'm going to trace around the edges. Now this particular color combination gives you more of that peachy pink kind of color combo. Almost reminds me of the Pawsitively saturated inks from Simon Says Stamp in Cheeky Blush and Pucker. I feel like these marker colors really match those inks really closely. So I love this, and we're going to color all the hearts in with some combination of these 3 markers. I went around the outside edge with R35. I'm blending out with R32, and then we'll finish with R30. Now this paper is pretty saturated here. I'm going to kind of go back in with R32 a little bit. You can always let it dry a bit and go back over it if you need to. I don't believe I had any bleeding issues with this particular color combination, so got lucky there. If you think it might bleed a little bit, just give it a few minutes, or a minute or 2, I guess I should say, to completely dry and absorb. These are alcohol-based markers, so they will dry quickly before trying to blend it out more than you already have. I'm using E13, E15, and E19 for my kitty here, and I'm just going in and adding lots of fun texture and interest, adding some little stripes to this kitty. I think it's kind of fun. Add a little shading here and there. And then I'm going to use a little E50 for the underside of the tummy that peeks out there underneath the heart, and a little R30, which was the lightest color I used for the heart, for the insides of the ears. And also the nose. Here's that E50 and a little E13 as well, to warm that up a little bit more. Then we're going to go ahead and color in the rest of the hearts, and that includes the heart balloon that the dog is holding. So let's go ahead and do that just like before. For some of the smaller hearts, so for one of them, I stuck to only R32 and R30. That's going to give you more of a pink heart. And then for the smallest one, I think I really only did R35, so it's much more red. but all the colors look really good together, and I like how they're all just a slightly different shade, at least for some of the smaller ones. It adds a little bit more interest. You could even do all the small ones more in reds if you wanted. Then for the dog, we're going to use shades of warm gray and warm gray 7, 6, 4, 0, 0, and 1, some combination of that throughout. I did kind of go around with the darker color, and then I'm going to blend out pretty light, and then we'll go in with the spots and add even warmer. My goal with this little puppy here is I want him to look like the balloon is having him float up in the air. One of my very favorite things to do with pop-up box cards is to make the elements appear to be floating by using some acetate. I call them picks. So basically I take some nice strong acetate. We're going to be using Simon Says Stamp acetate today, trim it into thin strips, and then we're going to pop up some of the different elements inside our box card so they appear to be floating. By using the clear product, when you just initially look at it, it does look like everything's floating, and it's really, really fun. So I can't wait to have this little puppy floating up in these clouds with his little heart balloons. So cute. After I've shaded him out, I did go in with warm gray 4 and add a little spot detail to give him a little bit more texture and interest. And here's those darker warm grays in 7 and 6 for the nose and the spots. Warm gray 4 for the little dots all over. And then R30 for the insides of his ears. We're even going to go in with a little bit more warm gray 1 and 0, 0 for his tummy to give it a little more interest. If R30 is a little too deep dark, it's like a little too pink, you can always go over it with your warm grays to help mute that color just a little bit. Now, once I have everything colored in, I'm going to grab the coordinating Love Day dies, and there are dies not only for the 3 critters. So in addition to the cat and the dog, which are the only 2 I'm using in my cards today, there is a cute little bunny. There's those 3. There's 3 large scripty sentiments that also have coordinating dies, the 3 hearts, and then several small sentiments that I absolutely love. They're really, really good and can be used for lots of different cards. Before I die cut my critter, I am going to take Love You from the Love Day stamp set and stamp this on the heart with clear embossing ink and heat emboss with white embossing powder. I did this on this card, but on the second card, I'm actually not going to do that. We're going to leave the heart as is, but I just wanted to show that it is a great place for a small sentiment to go if you want to, almost like a oversized conversation heart. There is the stamping. I like to stamp it a couple times. I almost forgot. I started taping my dies in place to run them through the die cutting machine, but I realized I wanted to stamp that first because it's a lot easier while it's still part of the larger piece of cardstock before it's an individual image. We're going to hit that with our heat tool just like so. I did use a powder tool on that first, so as soon as the embossing powder is all the way cooled, I will buff away that extra powder. And here are all those coordinating dies. I love that there's even the dies for the little hearts because I love little heart accents. You guys know this. Now here's that acetate I was talking about. I love the Simon Says Stamp acetate for this. It is really nice and thick and sturdy, so it's going to work great. Plastic packaging left over from your stamps and dies really isn't going to work here. It's just not strong enough. You want something clear and something pretty sturdy. So I would highly suggest some sort of acetate for this for really good results. I'm going to take a black jelly roll pen and add detail to the eyes. I'm going to use a white pen to add a little detail to maybe the hearts and the balloons, to the little cheeks on our dog, and then we are ready to start adhering things to the card. Now, the Cat is actually the only thing in this card that is not going to be adhered with a clear pick. And I'm trying to decide where I want him to go first. So you can see I started thinking maybe I'd tuck him behind this first cloud, which I kind of like, but he's a little too much in the center and I feel like the dog gets covered up a little bit. So I went back to my first idea. My original idea was to have him here in the forefront against the cloud border, kind of tilted at an angle. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I glued him in place. For everything else, we're actually going to use glue dots. I highly recommend when using acetate to use some sort of glue dot or tape runner, something that's not a liquid adhesive, because liquid adhesive takes forever to dry on the acetate, and even when it does, they sometimes pop off. I really prefer glue dots because I feel like they work really great. I'm going to secure my different elements to these acetate picks, and I leave my picks long. And then I'm going to tuck them in the box, and you can see I'm kind of gauging with my finger where I need to trim that. And then I'm just going to trim that down with some scissors. This makes it so that I can put all the different elements at different heights on my card. So once I have that, and I do like to do the bigger elements first. And look, how cute is that? He looks like he's floating up in the clouds with his balloon. So cute, you guys. I really like the size of this box card. I love that it's a full 4 1/4 inches tall. I love that. I think you can create some really cool stuff with this. And who wouldn't love opening up a regular envelope thinking they're getting a regular card, which those are great too, but finding out that you have this interactive box card that you can set like on your desk or on a little shelf or whatever, wouldn't that be fun? So now I've got my hearts. You can even put the littlest pieces on these acetate picks. You don't have to cut them super skinny because they're clear. And then it's going to appear that there's some hearts floating inside this box too. It's one of my very favorite things. The bigger elements are so super cool, but adding those little teeny tiny elements floating inside is just a lot of fun. Now I'm going to take a piece of vellum and we're going to stamp one of the scripty sentiments for the card. This time we're going to use Sending Love. On the second card we'll use Happy Valentine's Day. And I'm going to stamp this with the clear embossing and watermark ink from Hero Arts, and then we're going to heat emboss with white embossing powder and die cut the sentiment with the coordinating dies. So all the scripty sentiments have coordinating dies, which is awesome. And then I'm going to pop up the sentiment in the card as well. It's a little trickier. You are maybe going to see the glue dot at certain angles inside of the box. However, I don't think it's super noticeable, and I love that it appears that it's almost like an extra cloud, but the cloud has words in it. You're going to see that here. So I did try to hide the glue dot a little bit behind the white embossing. It's not super successful, but it's not bad enough to bother me. And then I'm going to figure out how tall I want this little floating sentiment to be. We'll add some glue dots on the bottom portion of our sentiment pick, and then we're going to pop this right inside of the box. So it's floating kind of back behind the cat and right in front of the dog. You can still see through it. It looks like another cloud. I really, really love it. So now let's go ahead and add our final floating hearts in our box. These are teeny tiny. And this is going to be the last of the embellishments inside the box. Then I'm going to show you, because this is a non-traditional card and there might be somewhere that you want to write a sentiment, you can always take those basic rectangle dies from before and die cut that from another piece of cardstock and add it to the back of the box as a great place to maybe handwrite a little message, or you could even embellish it if you wanted to. You could stamp something, an extra sentiment there if you wanted to. There are a lot of different things you can do on the back of the box, or you could even make a panel and maybe stamp a made by for my case, like made by Nichol or whatever it might be. You can always add something like that to the back of the box, since you really can't like handwrite a message or anything on the interactive part of this. Okay, there are our little floating hearts. Is that not so much fun? These are so addictive, and really, you guys, after you've made one and kind of figured out how they go together, they are so easy to make, and it's so fun to figure out different ways to create these box cards. Let's go ahead, and this is going to be one of those panels I was just talking about on the back of our card. I die cut it from some Simon Says Stamp Fog cardstock. I'm going to stamp Happy Valentine's Day on it with clear embossing ink, heat emboss with white embossing powder, and then this is going to go directly on the back of the card. And this is a great place where you can like sign your name or even write a little message. Let's grab our card. And the great thing is you can pretty much fold it flat. I don't even think I did fold it flat to place it on here. Didn't really need to. I was able to stick my fingers in, I guess. But I'll show you folding it flat and placing it in an envelope at the end of this video. So there is our first box card. Now, the pink background is a fun little change up from the first one with the blue. I love doing pinks. So this card is all going to be pinks, and we're going to use 2 of the box inserts that are hearts, and then we're also going to use one of the clouds, so it'll be a little similar to the first card. So I'm doing the very same thing that I did the first time, where I am making sure all of the score lines are folded really well with my bone folder. Now this time I'm going to use the smaller of the 2 rectangles that come with the basic box die, and we're going to center this and die cut this panel right from our card front. So let's run over to the die cutting machine and cut that out. I want to save it just like before. I like using that panel in the back of my box card for a little added interest. Then we're going to put our double-sided adhesive right on those long tabs. And we're going to place these end to end. I did this one slightly different, and I think I like doing it this way a little bit more, where the window is in the long, like the center of the long strip instead of at the very end, just for a little FYI if you're putting it together. Then let's go ahead and place this panel in the back. Just double check which panel is the back. And then we want to take our inserts. Now I did die cut all of my inserts from smooth white cardstock, and I want to add a little bit of color to those, and I'm going to do that with the same colors of ink that I used before. So I have my solid hearts, we have some outline hearts, and then I will be using the cloudy border. There's also a scallop frame which I didn't use. So you might remember earlier in the video I said that I don't like to get ink when I was stamping the backgrounds on the tabs where I put the adhesive. The adhesive doesn't stick to it really great. So I actually ended up taking some Post-it tape, or you can use washi or regular Post-its, whatever, and masking off those tabs as I'm adding the Sweets and Bubblegum Positively Saturated inks to these hearts. That way the tabs stay nice and clean and white, and they're going to secure to my box card a lot easier. In the past, if I have inked up these tabs, it sometimes makes it really hard for the adhesive to stick to it. So there we go, and I like the little ombre effect with this one. Isn't that going to be pretty in here? So much fun. And then we're going to go ahead and take the sides, fold those down, score them a little bit. Let's take our outline, and we're left with a bunch of heart accents or die cut hearts. You can see those over there on my table. I can save those to use on another project because these are really pretty hearts. I really like those. It's a nice assortment. I'm going to reuse those same pieces of Post-it tape, and this time we're going to use Taffy, which is the darkest color in this trio of inks, to ink up the outline. This would also be super pretty, maybe out of a sparkle cardstock or something like that. So definitely consider that, using different kinds of papers to die cut these inserts for your card. Now I'm going to go ahead and take sentiments from my Love Day stamp set, and I'm almost going to turn the hearts on this one into conversation hearts. I'm going to stamp things like "You are very special to me," XOXO, "Love you," "I love everything about you," and then we're actually going to use XOXO twice. So I'm just filling in all of these hearts with little phrases from the stamp set. It's going to be in the back of the card, but I do kind of like that when you look down or look through it, there's some text on these hearts. You could totally leave this step off if you wanted to, as it's not going to be the prominent feature on the card. It's just one of those little finishing details that I particularly love. And then I accidentally messed something up, so I'm having to place them back because I did not get them all picked up. So please ignore my little mistake there. Okay, better. We're going to stamp with the clear embossing ink and heat emboss. And then we're going to be ready to start putting it all together. Tapping off that excess, and then we'll heat set it, and I'll move the XOXO and stamp that last one. Now I have my cloud frame. Kind of ignore that. I did the cloud frame but I don't like it. It's not very showy, and it didn't really do much for the card. So I actually opted to use one of the partial cloud borders instead. And I had to pull my box card apart to do that. I always like to tell you guys when I have to do things like that, because sometimes it doesn't always come together, right the first time, and that's totally okay. You just have to persevere, maybe pull things apart a little bit, and you will get there. Then we're going to put our double-sided adhesive on all of the tabs, just like we did for the previous card. This one just has these great hearts. This is really fun. And I'm using, I think this is the Lawn Fawn double-sided adhesive. It's about 1/8 of an inch wide, so it works really well for these little tabs. And then we want to peel off only one side of the backing paper. Just ignore the fact that I'm using this cloud and pretend I'm replacing it with the other cloud. I'm not sure if I might show that here in the video here in a second. I can't remember. Then we're going to peel off the outline heart, and we're going to finish with the solid hearts. That way, as you're looking back and through, you're kind of looking through the clearer things to the more solid images. At least that was my thought process. With the hearts, you just want to make sure that the tips and the tops and the bottoms will fit within the box card and nothing sticking out. Once you have that, you can go ahead and fold everything over. And this is going to be a much better example. As I'm pulling the backing paper off every layer, I'm making sure they're lined up, and I'm holding them in place with my left hand as I'm peeling off the backing paper with my right, and then I'm going to fold the card over and pick them all up at once. Perfect. That works so easy, and I really love the results. Okay, so kind of ignore the little bit of mess there inside the card. That will all be hidden as soon as I lay these back down, but I did want to show you how I just kind of redid it. Pulled it off, added that different cloudy border. I think it's going to be a much better spot for the image we're going to use. Let's peel off that last side of backing paper and fold our box card shut. And then I'm just going to take my bone folder and make sure that it's nice and secure. Here are the images I'm using for this this card, I'm again going to use all 3 little hearts, and this time just the kitty. I feel like the hearts and all the color in the background is probably enough here. And so I chose to use some fuchsia markers that I feel like match the pinks of my card a little bit better with RV 04, 06, and 09. And then we're going to make this kitty kind of a little black and gray tabby. All of the hearts are going to be colored with these colors of marker, so they're all going to be the same. I'm not going to really change up anything. Just trying to get a nice blend. The other difference is I opted not to stamp a sentiment on this heart. We're going to leave it as is, just add a little highlight with a white pen. And then we're going to be using those warm gray markers for the cat that we used on the dog on the last card. So a lot of warm gray 7, 6, and 4. Add a little bit more RV09 to this heart. Felt like it needed blended out a little bit better. As well as our big heart there. I love how the heart is so huge that this kitty's holding. I think it's fun. We're just going to go in with our dark color, blend that out just a little bit. And then I will go in with warm gray 7 and I'm going to do like some little stripes. But we're going to do all of our ink blending first, and then we will do that portion. And don't forget the little paws holding up the heart. And the little tummy, I did a little bit lighter with some lighter warm grays. And there are the little stripes. And also the nose. Now, just like before, we're going to take some little acetate picks to pop everything up inside of our card. This time I am going to die cut another sentiment from VELLUM after I have stamped and embossed it, but we're going to use Happy Valentine's Day. It's a little bit bigger and bolder, but we're only using one large image, so I really feel like it's going to show up a little bit more on this card. Don't forget to add some black glaze pen to the eyes to really make the little face pop, as well as any little bits of white pen detail that you might want to add. I accidentally smeared this a little bit, by the way, and so I end up having to fix it, which I just went in with a little bit more of one of my I think RV06 marker, and I'll fix it. But I did want to tell you that happened because you can see here that I smeared the white pen. I thought it was dry. Totally my bad. But we're going to fix that really quick. I'm going to just go back over the white line with my white Jelly Roll pen and then take my marker, which is so close to me, I'm sorry I was out of frame, and just color that. So the cat is actually in front of everything, and then the picks are all going to be back behind this layer. The clouds definitely have a little bit more to hold on to, so if you want to have like different depth and dimension of placing the elements in, it's a little easier with that. For this one, I felt like everything kind of needed to be more close up front, and then you could build back from there. So with the hearts, because they already are more of an embellishment or an accent on their own, I guess I want to say. So I'm adding in these little picks. I love how it looks, and of course the Happy Valentine's Day. Here is a peek at both of them together. Aren't they fun? These are sure to bring a smile to anyone's face. So let me show you really quick how they fit inside an envelope. They just simply fold flat and they slide right inside a standard A2 size envelope, just like so. Then you pull them out and pop them right into shape. Amazing. I absolutely love it. It is a fantastic way to send an interactive card to anyone that you love during Valentine's Day or anytime. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these pop-up box cards. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link down below in the description. We would love to have you over there. Every month I do an exclusive live for my highest tier, as well as you get early access and all kinds of fun things. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I appreciate you all so very much, and we will see you next time.